What up, that
All right. Happy Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Morning after Cheeto Vera and Corey Sandhagen. We got a lot to cover this video. I mean, crazy fight night. How about it?
Crazy fight night. I have to say right off the top, if there's anybody out there wondering why I sound like a freaking horse, I'm getting over a little bit of a chest cold, and I spent the entire night in Atlantic City, so please forgive me for that. Thank you for being patient.
We always keep it real here. We're not gonna, we got to keep it real for you guys.
Yeah, raw and uncut.
Before we get into the fight night and all the fight breakdowns, the controversy, the in-between, we have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Cowboy Donald Cerrone has just been inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame for 2023. I know, RJ, that's your guy. How we feeling? We're going to make a video on it, but how you feeling? Initial thoughts?
I'm feeling so good about that. Yeah, we'll get into it. A long list, very, very respected career. Just an incredible guy, an incredible fighter. I love to see it, and it's always a little bit emotional, like when you see these guys get like that ultimate respect, in that way. But when they cut, you can kind of feel it coming, right? You see them showing the highlights, and then they cut over to Cowboy, and he literally mouths, he was like, "Oh, fuck." You know what I mean? And he takes his hat off, and he stands up, and the people just go nuts. Like that made me feel so good watching that man get respected in that way, and are honored, I should say, honored in that way. And then his kids came out, and you could just see he's so happy, man. Like, for to be a guy who's almost 40 years old, I think he's like 39 or 40.
Something up, yeah.
He made, like, not everybody makes a career out of fighting. Sometimes it's just your job, it's your hobby. This man made a career out of this, and I just love to see it, man. It made me very, very happy, and well-deserved.
Yeah, well-deserved is an understatement. I mean, we're going to make a full video, and it's probably going to take us close to an hour to go through his career.
We could talk about Cowboy Cerrone for years.
Yeah.
People will be talking about Cowboy Cerrone for forever in fighting.
Just so many legendary moments in his career, and who else better to get inducted into the Hall of Fame? And congrats again, Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah, hats off.
All right, now that we got that out of the way, because we got a big video coming on that, just had to acknowledge it first. Let's get into this card a little bit. We started off the night hot with two fights, and one fight in particular I just want to mention because it's easily fight of the year contender. CJ Vergara versus Daniel Da Silva. I know he's got another last name, but that's the one I'm going with. For the 2 rounds that they went, that was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. For Vergara to get rocked as he did in the first round and to make it to a second round was nothing short of unbelievable. And then to get the finish in the second, I was speechless. I was on the edge of my seat that entire fight, just like, what is going on? I don't know if you saw that fight or if you were doing whatever, but it was something else.
Yeah, like I said, I was in Atlantic City all night. Everybody's going nuts around me, and I'm like in the corner watching UFC fights on a TV in a little nook that I found. So I didn't get a chance to like listen to all the fights, so it was probably much crazier than even I could have picked up on, but I was watching. I mean, the card didn't disappoint. It's funny? It's actually interesting because these cards that are a little bit top heavy and people kind of, don't make as big of a deal about the undercard as they do like the main event. Those cards always deliver. I feel like those are the cards where the fighters know they have to make a big statement, and they really get after it. They take an opportunity. They take advantage of the opportunity they're given with the eyeballs on them because of the people in the main event and the co-main event spots.
Oh, yeah. Credit to the San Antonio crowd was electric last night. I mean, just loud from beginning to end, and it was that definitely plays a role in how these fights went, because I think a lesser crowd, CJ Vergara was not making it out of the first round. So credit to the San Antonio crowd.
Yeah, Texas fans have always been, up there with some of the most rowdy and funnest crowds to be around.
For sure. I just wanted to mention that fight because it deserves all the spotlight. I'm sure it got fight of the night on this card, with some even great fights as well. This fight just really shined bright in my eyes. Another shining bright moment on this card, the judging, the ongoing judging debate and controversy.
Right.
We had another one of those moments in a lot of people's eyes.
Moments.
But the main target here, Macy Barber and Andrea Lee. That fight, I know in the MMA community, it was scored pretty unanimously for Andrea Lee, but obviously she did not get the nod.
Yeah, look, I mean, sometimes everyone screams robbery. I don't necessarily think it was a robbery. I think it was a close fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fight was back and forth. If you look at the stats, I mean, it seemed like Macy had maybe more significant shots to the head, where Lee had body shots, leg kicks, and I think 5 out of 5 takedowns, where Macy had, I think, 2 for 2. So when you look at the whole thing, it's like, these girls went out and fought each other. It did seem to me, watching it, and again, I had no sound. I couldn't hear what was happening in the fights. It did seem to me that Lee had a little bit more control. And, maybe you give Macy the damage points for the headshots, but, I mean, 30-27 is kind of insane. I never would have guessed that. I mean, maybe you see a split decision, but for it to be unanimous in the way of Macy seems a little crazy. I don't really think it should have been that easy,
Yeah, no. I think it was split.
Oh, it was
split. I think it was I think it was
somebody
split.
gave her 30-27.
Yeah, one judge gave her 30-27. I think one
Big Dan.
I think it was Big Dan Murgliata.
Let's talk about
shout
that
out
for
Big
a minute.
Dan. Shout out Big Dan, but I don't know how that's 30-27 in my eyes.
This guy's he's supposed to be one of our figureheads. He's supposed to be the guy that knows everything, and it's like, what? Right? It seems kind of like a weird call.
It definitely seemed like a weird call. A little strange too that he was judging the Macy Barber fight, and then 1, 2, 3 fights later, he's refereeing. He refereed the main event, which is a little strange in my eyes. I feel like you should probably be doing one or the other on a single night, but who knows where that's going.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody can hold both of those roles, we would think it would be Big Dan, but you got to be focused, man. And I just don't see how that fight could have been scored such a clean win for Macy. I just think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I could see a world where she won 2 out of 3 of the rounds, but it's
3 of 3. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean.
With all that control time and takedowns, there's just I just don't see a world where she can get 3 of 3 rounds.
Yeah, I don't either, and I understand that sometimes you want to back the young, new, exciting fighter, but you can't do it at the expense of other people's careers, other people's it's their paycheck, it's their livelihood, it's food on their family's table. Like, it's not like you can't have biases when you're doing something like this. Like, it's just not. It's not fair, you know what I mean? And life's not fair, but like this is like the reason we have judges. It's not supposed to be a popularity contest. It's supposed to be who did the job on that night. I don't know. It definitely makes you kind of look at it sideways. But
take a second look.
And I don't want to take anything away from Macy Barber either. Like, congratulations. It was a close fight. You got back in the win, another win. So we'll see what happens for her in her future. Do you think she's ready for the top of the division?
Top of the division. Do I think she gets past an Andrade right now after seeing what Andrea Lee did? I don't think she's ready for that caliber. Like, maybe in a few more fights if she keeps, working. But if she got in there with Andrade next fight, I think Andrade just takes it to her.
Yeah. Do you know how old she is right now? I know there was talks that she wanted to be like the youngest champ, beat John Jones's record. There's like 3 or 4 people now that are trying to chase that record, which is an unbelievable record as it stands. But I can't see that happening for her, especially with the injury she sustained last year, and and then getting a fight like this. Like, granted, she got the win, but I think we should pump the brakes on her a little bit, give her a couple more of these kind of, this level fight, and she's got to work on the skills.
Yeah,
she is she's an exciting prospect, and people want to see where she goes, but I don't want to rush her.
I don't think it's necessary to rush her. And I think she has all the capabilities to be a champion one day. I just don't think it's going to be in the next 1 or 2 fights.
Right.
I forgot. I've lost my train of thought, but the ongoing judging debate is never going to end. It's that whole argument on control versus damage. So we'll see. I think it's just going to keep happening because there's not much we can really, like, how are you going to change it? But, we could talk about that forever. So we kind of just have to accept it, and hopefully we all agree on something in the future.
Who's next? Was that Holly? Was Holly after that?
There was the Nate Land. I don't know how to say his last name. Nate Landwehr and Austin Lingo.
Yeah.
Nate is a psychopath. He's just a certified psychopath. Got the rear naked choke in the second round. Looked great on the feet. Austin Lingo actually looked really good too. He was just kind of a little too predictable at times, and Nate took advantage with the game plan and got the submission.
Yeah, a beautiful submission. That fight, there was some stuff going on. I caught basically right at the end towards the choke. I looked at the thing and I went, oh, he's going to get this. I saw it and I was like, look at that. It's almost over. And that was kind of the story through my eyes, what happened with that fight. Well, okay, cool, good on him.
Yeah, he just kind of won the fight. I mean, good on him. We'll see where he goes. He's entertaining on the mic, so he's got potential to be a star.
Couldn't hear it. This is such a bummer for me because I wish I could have gone back and listened to all the fights, because sometimes that makes it hard to break certain things down. But it's cool for him. He won. He looked good. I mean, the choke looked real nasty, and I didn't get to hear what he said on the mic, but it did look.
He's just entertaining, he just said some funny, entertaining things. I forget exactly, but something about his bicep or something. He was flexing.
It's funny because I could see it in Bisping's face that it was a fun interview. You know what I mean?
It was.
That much you can see. It's I saw it on his face, he's enjoying himself, and he looked like he was, hollering to everybody. So we'll keep our eyes and our ears out for him in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited for his career. Hopefully he gets someone good and keeps rolling. On to the co-main. Holly Holm. Holly Holm at 41 years old, showing her vet status, showing she still got it. She's still one of the top dogs. And the biggest thing that stood out to me, the adaptation of Holly Holm from round 1. That grappling.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could tell, Holly Holm's thing, right, is a lot of evasive movement, good kicks, good punches, circling. It seemed remind me of her opponent's name.
Yana Santos.
Santos. Santos made it very clear she was going to rush in and force the grappling right away. And, you know, in that first round, it's like Holly, you could tell, you know, she did a great job just fighting off the cage, digging for underhooks, like doing what she had to do. Once she kind of was like, accepted the fact, okay, we're going to be grappling, she turned the fight completely around in her favor with grappling. She said, you're not going to let me strike? Okay, cool, we'll wrestle. And completely dominated the fight. I mean, I think she landed in mount a few times. She just absolutely, to your point, Tyler, she got her, I don't even want to call it a read, but she adapted right away, man. She did what she had to do. Looked really good, man. Crafty veteran. She's been in there with everybody.
She really has.
There's no area in this fight game that she's not comfortable in at this point in her game. She's got one of the best camps, some of the best coaches in the world. She has the experience. She's a great fighter. And, you know, for her to just make those reads, make those adjustments on the fly, she didn't have to throw away a round or two to get those reads. She literally was just like, okay, this is what we're doing. Completely switched her game plan and like took a pretty dominant, it almost looked easy. You know, she did a great job. Shout out to Holly Holm.
Yeah, shout out to Holly Holm. I wonder if it was kind of this wanting to prove a point, so to speak, because they were teammates in the past. They used to be teammates with each other. I don't know if it was like once Yana got a hold of her, she was like, all right, we're going to do this. Well, I'm going to beat you at your own game type of thing. Or if it was just kind of the adapting to the style and be like, all right, we're here, so I'm just going to do this.
Well, I think it's a good point. I think she knew going into the fight her strengths and her strengths and Santos' strength, right? I think she understood that. She knew Santos had good grappling, and that was going to be the area which she was most dangerous. So I'm sure in the camp, they worked a lot of defensive grappling because they, you know, she kind of knew, her coaches knew, if it's a kickboxing match, that's not going to be a problem for us. So I'm sure they worked a lot of that stuff in the camp. And once Santos made it clear, like, this is the area I'm going to keep it in, I think Holly just reverted back to her training and did what she had to do. The funny thing to me is almost like after Holly made the switch, Santos continued with that game plan. This just kind of shows like the vet, you know, status of Holly. It's like Santos was getting beat in those exchanges and she kept going to it. It almost seemed like she didn't really have any other answers for Holly whatsoever. And when her game was getting shut down, it's like she didn't really have a plan B, where Holly had plan A, B, C, D all the way through it. Didn't need to get, you know, she didn't even need them. She said, okay, my A game isn't going to work. I'm going to go to my B, and got the clear win. And it was beautiful. Do you think she had mentioned wanting another title run? Do you think Holly Holm could ever be champion again in the 135 division?
I'm not gonna put it out of question. I mean, we've seen people, Glover Teixeira, Randy Couture, we've seen it happen at age 41 through 45. So I'm not gonna sit here and say it's impossible, because obviously it's possible. And Holly Holm looked really good. She looked physically very strong. She looked in shape. She grappled for 15 minutes, which is a lot harder to do than standing and kickboxing, something she's been doing her whole life. I think it's very possible. Rack up a few more wins. She said she didn't really call anybody out in her post-fight press conference or post-fight interview. She kind of just, she said, whoever's next, whoever the UFC gives me, I'll take, which we'll see.
Just to touch on that, you know, the fans, the UFC, the commentators, everybody hates that answer. If you know, and this has been a thing over the last couple of years, I believe Rogan started this. But like now that it became a thing, it's almost like it's pushed. They're going to ask you who you want next. You should have something lined up in your head. You should know before it happens, if I win, I'm going to call out this person, at the very least say, okay, I want somebody ranked here through here. Maybe this person's matched up. Maybe this person isn't. Like, you gotta, this is how you promote yourself. You have to say, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And you will more than likely do it. That starts the story. That gives the promotion something to talk about, an idea. It gives the fans ideas in their heads. You start talking about it. There's a buzz. Something gets made. That's how this goes. It's kind of crazy to me all these years later, and these fighters still kind of don't understand. They think it makes them look good to be like, oh, I'll fight anybody. And it's like, yeah, okay, we can't promote. Like, that's such that we already know that this is not a good answer for our promotion side of it. You know, I think she should have called somebody out in the top 5. I mean, Holly's, I don't know what she's ranked right now, but she's been at the top for a long time since she's been champion. And, you know, part of that might be because the division isn't as deep or developed as maybe the 125s, you know, but and that's, you know, that's not her fault, but she's got to make a little bit of noise if she wants to get back there in time for her to retire. You know, she's got to call her shot.
Time is definitely not on her side to say the least, but I agree. She should have probably called a name out just to build the story early instead of waiting to get a fight announcement. But we'll see who the UFC gives her. I don't know what she's ranked either, but I'm assuming it's going to be someone in the top 5. It probably has to be. That win in the top 5, she's up there for the title shot next.
Yeah, I mean, because that's one of those divisions it's almost looked the same for a couple years, you know, especially at the top. And it's like, you know, you got to give us something to talk about. You can't just say whoever, because then they're going to give you whoever, and, you know, and you got to kind of be loud. Like you said, time is not exactly on her side, you know, and not saying it's not possible. She's in great shape. I could see a world where if she stays motivated and stays in the win column, she could get the belt again and maybe be, I don't know how old the oldest women's champion's ever been, but
I don't know.
That might be a fun record for her to go try and capture.
Check off the list.
Yeah, why not?
Did you want to touch on what else she mentioned in her post-fight interview? It was, I mean, I agree with it, and I like what she said. I just don't know the whole story.
Yeah, so me and you, we kind of touched on this off air, if you will. Yeah. But I didn't watch her post-fight press conference speech or, you know, whatever. I did see in cage, you know, stuff. And I agree with what she said, you know what I mean? And some people make it over political. We're obviously not going to get into too much of that, but yeah, I mean, if you take what she said at face value, like, hey, America, let's stop sexualizing children, I 100% agree with that.
Pretty simple statement that we can pretty much all agree on.
Yeah, like, I don't know how anybody could hear that and have a problem with it. It seems like the internet always explodes with these dummies and crazy people trying to twist and turn everything to their political ideologies and agendas. But at the end of the day, what she said is spot on. Like, I completely agree with that. And, you know, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah,
good for her for saying it, to be honest with you.
Just using her platform to support what she wants to support, and it is a good thing at face value. And unless you spin it to make it your own, what you said, like ideologies or whatever, at face value, it's a great thing that she's doing and using her platform for. So all power to her.
Yeah, good for her for bringing it up, and I have no problem at all.
Let's be better, America.
Flat out.
So that takes us. Shout out Holly Holm. Good luck on her next fight. And shout out Yana Santos. Always room to come back, get a win, get in the win column next fight. Great co-main. Leads us right into the main event. We both have to eat our words here. We both did not pick Corey Sandhagen to win that fight.
Yeah, and I tell you what, after seeing how that went, I feel almost bad for doubting Corey in the least. Not that I ever doubted him, right? But I mean, we even said, and as I'm watching it live, I'm like, well, we kind of knew Cheeto might throw away the first 2 rounds. However, the way in which Sandhagen took those rounds was huge, right? Because first of all, who expected that wrestling from Corey Sandhagen? That was beautiful. This guy, like out of nowhere, throws another tool in the bag, and the way he utilized it, it's like, because now it'd be one thing if they were striking for the first 2 rounds and Cheeto kind of was getting his reads, took a little bit longer to try to find his shots. But now when you've mixed in this complete other threat, it's like Cheeto couldn't even get going at all. And, you know, by the 3rd round, because again, I'm watching it and I'm going, I wasn't expecting the wrestling side of it, but it's like we kind of knew Cheeto more than likely was going to lose the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
By the 3rd round, you could see Cheeto was like, okay, now I got to start going. But now he's already 2 rounds down and he's trying to figure out the movement and the timing. And it's by the 4th round, you could tell he was starting to visibly get frustrated, and he just couldn't get it going, man. And you could tell by like the second half of the last round, he was just kind of going for broke, which I think he probably needed to do a lot sooner than that. Yeah. But against a guy as dangerous as Corey Sandhagen, you can't. That's the thing. Like, you have to be super careful, or else you're going to be a highlight reel. You're going to get knocked out. So, I mean, I don't want to badmouth Cheeto. We've talked about it. Cheeto is like the man, and I love
Cheeto.
Love Cheeto, but major props to Sandhagen for coming out with a good game plan. I mean, he looked so good mixing everything all together. He looked like a real mature mixed martial artist tonight. And I mean, his wrestling, his movement, his striking. The one thing I did kind of note in my head, and it was after, I think it was like somewhere around the 2nd, maybe early in the 3rd round, and I was talking with my good friend Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. And he's like, Corey can't really take the shots from Cheeto. Like, Cheeto, like, Corey was dominating those rounds, but he still was getting like lumped up, and like he had like some little cuts in his eyes and his forehead. It's like you could tell that Cheeto really had the power, and Corey could not let him settle in and connect with anything big, because like, but that's the game plan, right? Corey made amazing reads and like just never let Cheeto get anything off. It was a master class, man. It was absolutely beautiful work.
It was a true master class. A lot to break down, but I think it all came down to the game plan. In between rounds, Perfect. you said you didn't have audio, but like the corner corner talks in between rounds, Cheeto looked, I don't want to say defeated, because that's not the word, because Cheeto's going to fight, but he looked puzzled. Like, it's almost as if he wasn't expecting Corey Sandhagen to be as good as he was. And I think that has a lot to do with the wrestling, as we mentioned, because we saw Dominic Cruz trying to implement some wrestling against Cheeto, but wasn't very successful at it. He kind of just showed him the takedown for the takedown, but Cheeto was still able to get his reads on the feet in the first 2 rounds. He couldn't get any reads in the first 2 rounds because he was on his back. So I think that's the big takeaway that we saw with Cheeto and his strategies.
Well, because it was almost like a secret weapon. Like, everybody knows Dominic Cruz has got incredible wrestling. Cheeto's entire camp for Dominic Cruz was probably wrestling defense and trying to mimic that funky movement of Dominic Cruz. With Sandhagen, I'm sure he expected a kickboxing match. And then was fighting off of his back for 2 rounds. So his coach is like, almost like don't even know what to say. It's like, well, I guess we got to switch everything that we've worked on and now defend takedowns. And then he comes out, and if he's not shooting the takedown, now he's piecing you up. He's over here, hits you from this angle. We talked about it. Corey Sandhagen's one of the most dynamic strikers out there. So once he gets you thinking about takedowns, well, now he's hitting you from over there. He's hitting you from over there. As soon as you start maybe connected 1 or 2, he goes in for the legs again. I mean, it was beautiful.
It was a masterclass.
A masterclass. It was like he did exactly what he had to do. And I don't think anybody expected it to go quite like that. Even if you picked Sandhagen, I don't think you would have picked him to win probably 2 or 3 rounds
45,
alone
49,
just
48.
with wrestling. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good point, Tyler. Now we have to come back to the judges. What judge? Are you kidding me? How on earth? And dude, and we both picked Cheeto. Cheeto's coming to my birthday party. How could you have given him that fight?
There's just no way. There's no way Cheeto Vera won 3 rounds in that fight.
I'm sorry, man.
I don't know if he won 1. I had either 49-48 or 50-49. The only round I really argued with was round 3. 3 because he landed a big left hand.
Yes, 3 was close.
Arguable.
If you want to even call it close, but like you said, maybe you give him 1 round. 1 round still ain't winning you the fight. So no. I really don't understand. And again, and I told you I couldn't hear it, right? So I'm watching them do the decision, and Buffer's talking, and then Cheeto's like, and I'm like, did somebody give? I'm like, did one of the judges give it to Cheeto? And he's holding his hand up, and I'm waiting for them to raise Sandhagen's hand, and I'm like, I saw it, and I looked at my boy, and I went, split decision? I literally looked around at everybody, and I went, this looks like I'm looking at what appears to be a split decision. Makes no sense. That was crazy, because that was a complete, for the 3rd time, I'll say it, masterclass. Total domination. I mean, he won.
And it just...
everywhere.
It just takes away... Sorry. I just keep cutting you off. I'm sorry.
No. You're good.
It just takes away from Corey's performance, because now it's like a little blemish that one person gave Cheeto, which most people will agree, we're not going to take that to heart because we all kind of know Corey Sandhagen won that fight. Yeah. But when you go to his record now, you see, split decision. It must have been a close fight if you didn't watch the fight.
If you don't know better, yes. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. So it really doesn't matter. Justice was served in a way, it's like the win is still a win. Anybody who remembers seeing the fight will always remember Sandhagen won probably every round, at least 4 out of the 5, if you want to argue it. And realistically, a split decision win over someone like Marlon Vera doesn't really look bad anyway. That's all good. I think Cheeto needs to really, this is something that I thought was very interesting, and it's kind of playing out in my head right now. I saw part of it. It wasn't an interview. It was just, someone made a meme out of something that Cheeto had said. And he said, and I thought it was cold, bro. It was like a cold comment. It was real cool. He goes, I'm not going to kickbox you. I'm not going to wrestle you. I'm not going to jiu-jitsu you. I'm going to fight you. Right? And that's like, oh shit. That's kind of like if someone had said that, it's like, damn, bro. It's like, we're not playing a sport. This guy's going to try to hurt me. Right? which again makes it cool, makes it exciting. Like the difference tonight or last night was a martial artist versus a fight. And I really appreciate that. It's like this thing. However, you can't rely on your grit all the time. Sometimes it's okay, cool. If you have that in your back pocket, great, dude. Be gritty. You have power. You can take shots, right? He even made a comment, and Sandhagen talked about this in the post-fight, later on, not in cage, afterwards, like a scrum or whatever they call it. And he was like, look, Cheeto said, whoever wants it more. He said, well, I want it just as much as you do. So now it's going to come down to like who's got the skills.
Yeah.
And if your plan is to just like catch me with something and knock me out, good fucking luck, because I'm going to be hard to find. He obviously mixed in the wrestling beautifully. Like, I think Cheeto's going to have to really take a step back, look at his style. If he's going to come back and make a title run, he's going to have to find a way to put a little bit more pressure out there early in fights.
Yep.
You can't rely on knockouts. It's exciting. Excuse me. It's exciting. We love to see it. But, these guys that are just so good, you have to come up with something else. Like you can't just wait for your shot, because you might not get it.
Yeah, it might not be there. And Corey Sandhagen is usually not there when you're trying to get to him.
Dude, amazing.
He just showed that. And I think we really saw the evolution, or I don't know what to call it, the upgrade, the evolution of Corey Sandhagen. You mentioned being a mixed martial artist, and I think we just saw Corey Sandhagen become a full-on mixed martial artist who can be who could be the champion tomorrow, probably. I think if you run it back with Aljamain Sterling, that fight goes a lot differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he unlocked another power. It's like he got a new gem on the ring. You know what I mean?
And that just attests to that fighter versus mixed martial artist that you were talking about. At the gym on Friday, I think, myself and our coach, Ed, shout out, Ed, I know you watched these because we were talking about it. Ed's a George St. Pierre guy through and through. Well, his favorite, I think. I'm pretty sure it's his favorite. But we were talking about how George St. Pierre was the first mixed martial artist in the UFC. Everyone before that was like, there's other people. BJ Penn was a mixed martial artist, but majority of those people were like a Cheeto Vera. They were fighters. And George was just a martial artist who broke people down through strategy and skills and became one of the greatest of all time. So I think while fighters can do very well in this sport, being a mixed martial artist is going to give you the best chance at being the best. And Corey Sandhagen is a mixed martial artist.
Yeah, I forget who said it. There was a coach that said something so great one time, and it stuck with me. What it used to be 30, 20 years ago, even maybe 15 years ago, it was fighters that wanted to become athletes. Nowadays, you have athletes that are becoming fighters. And that shit blew my mind, Tyler.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like that's brilliant. Because for real, like, even if you look at some of the old days, you go back and watch some of those fights, they weren't even like in shape half the time. Like they weren't in fighting shape, like as how we understand fighting shape, right? It's like none of them had six packs. Nowadays, everyone that steps on the scale is shredded, like you have to be, and some of these people come over from other sports. So some of these athletes could play any sport and they would be good because they're athletes, So when these athletes take, the path of martial arts to be their focus, it's like, guys like George St. Pierre is a great example because, he could do anything. Like he could probably jump really high, run really fast. Like he's a full-on athlete. But then it's like, okay, I mean, it also helps when you have like the best coaches.
John Danaher.
Yeah, like all the best coaches in the world, you know? So like, shout out to his team and his corner. But George, you know, is a great example of make your machine as good as it can be, make your head as sharp as it can be, and then just go out there and do the job. Because George was never like, he's not a trash talker. He's not like he doesn't have one of those like, I'll fight anybody anytime, like don't look at me sideways or I'm gonna come get at, like he's not one of those guys.
No.
And he's arguably the greatest to ever do it, you know? So to your point, you know, that grit and that mentality, it'll take you far, but against somebody who just puts all the tools together the right way, you're gonna have a hard time. Just, you know, it's
gonna be a hard night.
It's gonna be a long road to being the best in the world, you know, because we have these kids. I mean, I don't know how old. I've heard Schaub talk about it in Colorado. Like Sandhagen was a kid, and he's like coming to jiu-jitsu class and then starts striking and like it's just like building himself over the years. Like he was just a kid in the gym, and then you fast forward 15 years and this guy like whoops everybody's ass. Like
one of the baddest dudes on the planet.
100%. And I'd respect the hell out of him. And he's a really cool guy. And it's funny because I don't want to change my tune. Like I feel like we're switching up.
Yeah.
Because I said how awesome Cheeto was and that I thought he was going to win. I just want to make it clear. I always loved Corey Sandhagen. I just thought the grit would have been enough for Cheeto, the grit and the power. We were wrong, man.
We were wrong.
We were wrong, bro. And I props to Sandhagen for just making it look so good. He's another one. He made it look kind of easy. Beating Cheeto Vera look easy and amazing. Good on him.
I was talking to a few of my friends last night about before the main event started. We were like, who's gonna win? Like, I'm kind of leaning Cheeto, but it's pretty much 50-50 in my head. And I picked Cheeto, and every time when Corey Sandhagen fights, I pick Corey to win against Peter Yan. Unfortunately, he didn't get the nod. Now I pick Cheeto to win against Corey Sandhagen. Corey goes out and pretty much 50-45s him. I think Corey Sandhagen just knows who I pick when he's fighting and goes the other way. So I didn't want to pick against Corey Sandhagen because I've always been a huge fan.
This is why it's hard to pick these kinds of fights at the highest level. And look, you're not always going to be right. But like when you pick a fight like that, you know, I think Corey surprised a lot of people, not just because he won. I think a lot of people had him to win. But the way he did it, amazing stuff, man. What do you take about his call out? He called out Dvalishvili?
I was just gonna mention that. Well, it's where everybody goes from here. I love that call out. I mean, Merab has just shown that he's one of the scariest matchups for anybody with that gas tank and that wrestling. And for Corey to call him out that ballsy is just, that's the word. Because Corey's putting up, he's probably going to be number 3 ranked on Monday tomorrow because we got Merab number 1, O'Malley number 2. So I'm assuming Corey will be number 3. So he's putting up his number 3 rank against Merab. I think that's a favorable matchup for Merab just because of his wrestling, but Corey Sandhagen just showed that he's a top dog, and you can't count him out now.
Yeah, nothing but respect to him because he could have called out O'Malley, which is not an easy fight, but stylistically it's probably an easier fight than Merab. And he even had mentioned it in his interview where he's like, look, I want to fight the best guys. He's like, I believe I'm going to be the champion. So if I want to like honestly feel good about myself, hold that belt, be the best in the world, he's like, I have to fight the best guys. I have to get that experience on my way to becoming the champion. He said, and I think Merab's the best guy out there right now. So I'm calling him out. That's like, man, the cojones on this guy. It's like
Who's calling out Merab right now?
Straight up, like that's a big deal. And again, he could have called out O'Malley. People would love that. That's a fan favorite fight to see him and O'Malley just kickbox each other. Maybe not anymore.
No,
now we don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably shoots a couple times. Mix in all the tools. But like for him to call out Merab like that, amazing stuff, man. Amazing work. Nothing but respect for Corey Sandhagen. Like the whole night, from his performance to the call out to just his class, man. He's just like a good, classy way. He was humble and just like, man, I feel silly now looking back for not picking him. I really do. Like shout out.
Yeah, shout out Corey. I mean, that was pretty much a 10 out of 10 night just from beginning to end for Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah.
The fight, the post-fight interview, post-fight press conference, call out. We know Merab's going to accept the fight. Merab will fight anybody. So if Dana wants to make that fight, they'll make it. But
yeah, and especially because he's at the top and he's obviously not going to fight his training partner. They've said that. And they're matched up anyway with Cejudo and Aljo are already matched up. So what do? You fight the guy that just called you out. I think it makes sense to me.
And I think O'Malley's going to just kind of wait around until Cejudo and Aljamain fight for his title shot. So there's no one else besides Merab and Corey at the top.
Yeah, and which we've talked about. I think it's a mistake to kind of sit back and wait for your shot because you're going to get overlooked. And because now look at what happens. Let's say they do match those two guys up, Sandhagen and Merab. Well, now the only guy out there is Cheeto, who already beat you and now is coming off a loss. So you're now at that fight. In O'Malley's eyes, it's not going to make sense because it's like, well, he just lost. So I don't want to fight the guy that beat me that's coming off a loss, right? So what do? You're going to wait here when realistically the winner of Cejudo and Aljo versus the winner of Sandhagen and Merab, maybe they start talking. Like you're going to get overlooked. You better start. You either have to fight to keep your spot, or you better be in the media like crazy in everybody's face. On Twitter, on social media, like getting your point out there. Like we can't stress this stuff enough, man. It's not like it's no longer a secret, man. It's like you have to promote yourself. You have to say what you want to do, and then it will more than likely happen. If it doesn't happen because the company went a different way, okay, fine. But like you have to be proactive about this. If you're just like, oh, they promised me a title fight. Well, guess what? If this guy knocks out 3 guys and then the champion calls him out, that's what's going to happen. You're not just going to get it because you're just going to get it, unless you're Colby Covington.
Unless you're Colby Covington. And you want to finish your point?
It's actually a separate topic, so you can wrap that one up if you want.
Oh, I was just going to piggyback on your statements of if Corey Sandhagen and Merab fight and Corey Sandhagen goes and flying knees Merab into the shadow realm, you can pretty much bet Corey Sandhagen is getting the title shot after that.
100%. Yes, absolutely.
So, like, I don't know who O'Malley would fight right now, but it would be, I think luckily, the one thing O'Malley does have on his side is his draw. He's one of the biggest draws, whether you want to admit it or not. That's definitely helping him. But I agree, he should probably fight soon.
He's got to fight somebody because he's going to start getting overlooked. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And that's why it's just like respect on Sandhagen's part because he's calling out not only the guy at the top, but he's the most dangerous stylistically. So, like, he made a major statement with that call out, I think.
What about Cheeto? Where do we think Cheeto goes from here? The one thing I had in mind for Cheeto, rankings and kind of how it played out, I would like to see Cheeto versus Peter Yan.
I love it.
I think it works. I think they're going to be like 4 and 5 in the rankings. They're going to be right there with each other, both coming off losses from top of the top division. I think it makes sense.
I love it, Tyler.
It'll be a kickboxing match.
it's funny because when you first was like, where does Cheeto go? I was like, shit, man, I don't know. But as soon as that to me actually makes all the sense in the world. It would be, first of all, it'd be an amazing fight, great fight. Very just like calculated,
Both start
powerful
slow,
guys.
so
Yeah. So we don't have to worry too much
the
about
first
that,
two
right?
rounds will be 9-9.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great fight, man. I'd call Sean Shelby, get it done, man.
Yeah, say Sean Shelby, you watching this? Let's
Yeah.
get that fight right now.
We're gonna tag our man, get paid. No, but I love that fight. That's a great fight. It makes a lot of sense, man. Who's gonna stay right at the edge of that top 5? Like, because that's kind of that's almost the spot they'd be fighting for, is just that number 5, number 6, like right in that top 5 area. I think it makes all the sense in the world. I would love to see that fight.
That would be a banger.
I would love to see it.
I don't see what else Cheeto would do right now besides O'Malley, but O'Malley probably won't take that fight just because it doesn't really make sense for him.
Not if he was coming off the win, it would have made more sense, because then you could build it as a number 1 contender fight. Coming off the loss, plus this guy has a win over you, even though the Sugar State Athletic Commission turned it to a no contest. Yeah, but you know, Cheeto did get the win, TKO. So like, you know, I'm sure you don't want it. That's not an easy fight for O'Malley. And if he does have any kind of power in, you know, his future, he's not going to want to take that fight with Cheeto coming off the loss.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, that's the only really matchup I see for Cheeto and for Jan. I don't see much else, especially because a lot of the division is matched up right now with a lot of upcoming fights. So we have to kind of wait and see how the rest of the division plays out. But I would love that fight. I would love Merab versus Corey. And I think the bantamweights, I thought they were in a pretty bad spot, like just matchup wise, but we're in a pretty good spot for the bantamweight division.
Now that they all are matched up, we get to just see how it plays out, right? It's not like one of these divisions where you have all these contenders, you have all these top 10 guys that haven't or aren't fighting each other. They're all signed. So at least we just have to kind of wait it out for a few months, see how some of these fights turn out, and we'll have a pretty clearer picture. Like just exactly your example with Jan and Cheeto. It's like, we wouldn't have really thought of that until after this fight played out. Now that we know Cheeto took the L, it's like, well, what do you do? Oh, well, both these guys have losses. Let's match them up for a top 5. You know, who stays in the top 5 and who gets booted. Like, some of these fights have to just play out so we can see what is going to happen next. And it's cool because we're getting to see that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Does Aljo stick around? Does Cejudo win the belt? Does he lose and maybe go to another division? Does he stick around in the division? Does he stick around in the sport? It's like, how much does he really want to be involved? You know, it's a great division. I love this division.
Yeah. And now that you mentioned Cejudo, that brings up a solid, an interesting point, because it's not like it's a contender coming up from the bottom. It's just inserting one person into the top, which just adds another element. So that's going to be interesting to see how that fight plays out and where each of them go.
Yeah, and if he wins, it's going to be hard to get rid of him.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, not many people have that. Merab might have a good style for Cejudo.
Cejudo will
anyone
keep
else,
up with him.
Cejudo's a beast, bro. People like, you know, we've talked about him before. It's like, say what you want, but like, there's a reason that guy comes back after 3 years and just gets inserted into a title shot. Like, there's only certain people get that type of privilege. It used to be Conor McGregor. It's not even anymore. It's John Jones, Henry Cejudo. You know what I mean? It's like, these are the guys. Like, that's kind of it. Like, maybe back in the day,
GSP got it. Was it even 3 years though? I don't think it was even 3 years.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it was a little less. Who knows?
Couture's another one. But again, this is a very, very small list of people who get to like just come out of retirement and go for title shots. Like there's a reason he's in that club, if you will. And it's interesting. I love the fact that Cejudo's back. I do, because I felt like he left a little prematurely.
I agree.
He certainly solidified his mark on the divisions that he was in. I love it. I love that he's back. 2-division champ. I love seeing Cejudo in there. And I think he has some room still to make more marks on his legacy. I could see him being a champion at this division for a long time. I would even love to. I've said this before too. I would love to see him go up and challenge Volkanovski.
Yeah, I mean, if he became a 3-division champion, what else can you really say?
It's hard to not put him as GOAT.
Yeah,
I mean,
Olympic
gold, already beat flyweight GOAT.
Demetrius,
beaten 2 of the. I'm getting my divisions messed up.
Bantamweight.
The bantamweight. 2 of the bantamweight GOATs.
Yep.
If he goes up and beats the featherweight GOAT,
it's hard to
how
argue.
are you not the GOAT? You know,
the only argument is longevity, I guess. Just because he doesn't have the length of a John Jones or a GSP, but he has the resume of that.
100%. And I mean, I would take 3 belts over the same belt for 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know what side of the fence I'm on with that. I'm just kind of thinking about it. I'm on the fence with that one.
Yeah, we'll have to do another video, just GOATs.
Yeah,
just a GOAT video. We want to do a Mount Rushmore video.
Yeah, we have a lot of videos
maybe like
to do.
A pound for pound or a GOAT video, because those topics are always fun. The MMA community can't seem to get up those topics.
Never ending.
Yeah, they're interesting conversations.
Always. Anything else on the bantamweights? We kind of just went through the whole division. We got Adrian Yanez and Rob Font coming up at 287. That's going to be a banger.
That's a fun fight, and that's a fun fight that casuals might not understand how much of a fun fight that is. That's a great fight. If you're not like super amped for that one, you should be, because that's going to be a great fight.
And that'll be on the cusp of the top 5 ranking for the winner, because I think Rob Font is number, I want to say 6 or 7, and Yanez is 8, I want to say. So winner of that is right up there with the Cheetos and the Peter Yans, who is still the top of the top. And Adrian Yanez is a big prospect, so him getting up there would be huge.
Yeah, he's been looking really good. And this division is almost at that point where like we need some fresh meat to come up.
Yeah.
And when the guys like Cheeto and Jan, when they start acquiring multiple losses in a row, you got to make room for some of these young guys. And Yanez is definitely looking like he could be that guy. Rob Font's a good test, though. I'm excited for that fight.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a banger on a big card too. They deserve that. I think they're right before Gilbert and Jorge, so they get the spotlight too.
Yeah, that's on the Pereira and Izzy card.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they're gonna be in the spotlight. Winner kind of gets their name out there, and big moment for the bantamweights.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Can't wait for that card. What do we got? 2 weeks for that?
Yeah, well, there will be a video out for that one.
Well, 100%. That's our Tyler. That's your boy right there.
Yeah, I got a lot to say on that conversation, but we'll hold it off. I mean, I got nothing. I don't think I have much left on the bantamweights. We kind of just everyone's pretty much matched up, and everybody who's not matched up, we just played matchmaker. So you're welcome, Sean Shelby. You can pay us later.
Yeah.
You got anything left on anything kind of related?
No, I'm tapped on the card. Just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely come back and check out our Cowboy Cerrone video.
Yep.
Because that's going to be a lot of fun. We're probably going to be shooting that one in a little bit here today. So keep your eyes out for that one. Hats off to the legend again, because that was definitely one of my favorite parts of last night.
Oh, how can it not be? I mean, deserves it. Video coming on that. This video will be out soon, hopefully, quickly. Thank you guys for being here. We're growing. We're kind of growing a little bit on the YouTube. Getting in some traction. We're just going to keep it rolling. We thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Salute. Peace.